The year was 2387, and humanity had been part of the Galactic Federation for 43 years now. Most alien species still looked at humans as the new kids who barely made it into their club. They were polite enough during official meetings, but everyone knew what they really thought. Humans were primitive compared to the great civilizations that had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the USS Mercy watching the stars streak past through hyperspace. His ship was a medical vessel designed for emergency response missions across Federation space. The crew was small but skilled, and they had saved countless lives over the past 5 years. Still, Morrison knew that most alien species would rather wait for their own medical teams than accept help from humans. The emergency signal came through at 0347 ship time. Morrison rubbed his tired eyes and looked at the communication display. The message was from Velos Prime, capital world of the Valian Empire. Morrison felt his stomach drop. The Valians were one of the founding races of the Federation, and considered themselves far superior to younger species like humanity. "Sir, incoming priority message from Valian High Council," said Lieutenant Alex Turner from the communications station. "Put it through," Morrison replied. The holographic image of Prime Minister Kelnara appeared before them. Her crystalline features looked strained, and her usually perfect composure seemed cracked. The Valians were silicon-based life forms that looked like living gemstones, beautiful but cold. Federation vessels, this is Prime Minister Kelnara of the Valian High Council. Our beloved Emperor Zixthera has fallen gravely ill with an unknown condition. Our finest physicians are unable to treat this disease. We request immediate medical assistance from all Federation members. Morrison exchanged glances with his medical officer, Dr. Lisa Carter. She was Earth's leading expert in quantum biology and had joined his crew 6 months ago. Carter stepped forward. "Prime Minister, this is Dr. Carter of the Human Medical Corps. Can you provide details about the Emperor's condition?" Kelnara's expression showed barely concealed distaste. "Dr. Carter, while we appreciate the Federation's response protocols, I doubt human medicine could assist with Valian physiology. This request is directed toward our more advanced member species." Morrison felt his jaw tighten but kept his voice professional. "Understood, Prime Minister. We'll monitor the situation." The transmission ended, and Morrison turned to Carter. "What do you think, Doc?" "She's wrong about human medicine being useless," Carter replied. "We might not have their fancy energy manipulation technology, but we understand organic systems better than any species in the galaxy. Besides, if they're sending distress calls, their own advanced medicine isn't working." Over the next few hours, responses came in from across Federation space. The telepathic Zentauri claimed their mental healers couldn't interface with Valian biology. The Catherian Collective said their nanomedical systems were incompatible with whatever was affecting the Emperor. Even the ancient ethereal consortium admitted they couldn't help. Morrison watched the rejection messages pile up. Each response was polite and apologetic, but the message was clear. Nobody could save the Emperor. He thought about the political implications. The Valian Empire controlled dozens of star systems, and their Emperor's death would trigger a massive succession war. Half the galaxy could be thrown into chaos. "Captain," Carter said, approaching him with a data pad, "I've been reviewing what little medical data they shared in the distress call. This looks like some kind of quantum plague affecting the Emperor's neural matrix." "Quantum plague?" Morrison asked. "It's theoretical," Carter explained. "A disease that operates at the quantum level, disrupting the neural pathways that silicon-based life forms use for consciousness. I've been studying similar quantum organic interactions in Earth's deep-sea organisms." Morrison raised an eyebrow. "You think you can help?" "Maybe. I'd need to work with Dr. Ben Rodriguez. He's my research partner and the only other person who might understand this type of condition." Carter paused. "But Captain, even if we could help, they made it clear they don't want human assistance." Morrison considered this. The Federation's official position was that member species should respect each other's decisions. If the Valians didn't want human help, that should be the end of it. But Morrison couldn't shake the image of Kelnara's strained expression. She was desperate even if she was too proud to admit it. "Get Rodriguez on the line," Morrison ordered, "and set course for Velos Prime." "Sir?" Turner looked confused. "They specifically said they didn't want our help." "They said they doubted we could help," Morrison corrected. "That's different. Besides, we're a medical vessel responding to a distress call. It's our duty to offer assistance." Dr. Rodriguez joined them via subspace communication from his research station on Europa. His image appeared as a hologram on the bridge. "Lisa tells me you want to attempt treatment of a quantum neural plague," he said without preamble. "Is it possible?" Morrison asked. Rodriguez rubbed his beard thoughtfully. "Theoretically, yes. We've been studying quantum effects in Earth's extremophile bacteria. Some of these organisms can survive in environments that would destroy any known technology. If the Valian Emperor is suffering from quantum neural disruption, we might be able to adapt our research. The other species with far more advanced technology have already given up," Morrison pointed out. "That might be exactly the problem," Carter said. "They're thinking like engineers trying to use technology to fix a biological problem. We think like doctors. Sometimes the simplest solution is the right one." Morrison made his decision. "Rodriguez, get yourself to the nearest Federation transport. We'll pick you up at the Kepler Station Junction. Carter, start preparing whatever treatment protocols you can. We're going to help whether they want us to or not." The journey to Vilos Prime would take them through 3 different sectors, some of which weren't entirely safe for human vessels. Morrison knew he was taking a risk. If the treatment failed, it would be another mark against human competence. If it succeeded, it might upset the delicate balance of galactic politics. But as he watched the stars stream past, Morrison thought about something his grandfather had told him years ago. "Boy, when someone needs help, you help them. Doesn't matter if they like you or think you're good enough. You do what's right." The USS Mercy dropped out of hyperspace at Kepler Station 12 hours later. Dr. Rodriguez was waiting with a small team of specialists and several containers of research equipment. Morrison welcomed them aboard and immediately set course for Valian space. As they entered hyperspace again, Morrison couldn't help but wonder what they would find when they reached the Emperor. Would the proud Valians accept help from the species they considered primitive? And even if they did, could human medicine really succeed where the galaxy's most advanced civilizations had failed? The answer to those questions lay somewhere ahead in the deep darkness of space. The USS Mercy dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Valian space, and Morrison immediately felt the tension on his bridge. Vilos Prime hung before them like a massive crystal in the void, its surface gleaming with the light of 3 suns. The planet was beautiful but intimidating, a perfect reflection of the species that called it home. "Captain, we're being hailed by Valian Defense Command," Lieutenant Turner reported. "Put them through," Morrison replied. A tall Valian officer appeared on the main screen. His crystalline features were sharp, and his voice carried the typical Valian tone of barely controlled annoyance. "Human vessel, you are not authorized to enter our space." "State your business." "This is Captain Morrison of the O." "Medical vessel USS Mercy. We're responding to your distress call regarding Emperor Zixithara's condition." The officer's expression grew even colder. "The High Council has made it clear that human assistance is not required. Please depart our space immediately." Dr. Carter stepped beside Morrison. "Officer, I'm Dr. Carter, a specialist in quantum biology. We may be able to help where others have failed." The Valian officer actually laughed, a sound like breaking glass. "Doctor, our physicians have studied medicine for centuries before your species even discovered fire. What could you possibly offer?" Morrison felt his temper rising but kept his voice steady. "The right to try. Every other species has failed. What do you have to lose?" Before the officer could respond, another voice cut through the channel. "Let them dock." It was Prime Minister Kelnara. The defense officer looked shocked but nodded reluctantly. "You will dock at Medical Port 7, the officer said. "You have 1 hour to present your case to the Medical Council." The connection ended and Morrison turned to his team. Dr. Rodriguez had arrived with Dr. Amy Foster, Earth's best neurosurgeon, and a small team of medical specialists. They looked nervous but determined. 1 hour to convince them, Morrison said. "What do we need?" "Access to the Emperor's medical data," Carter replied, "and permission to examine him directly. We can't diagnose from a distance." The docking procedure took 30 minutes. Vilos Prime's medical facility was unlike anything the humans had ever seen. The walls were made of living crystal that pulsed with soft light. Valian medical equipment floated freely in the air, manipulated by thought alone. Chancellor Vexmara, the Emperor's personal physician, met them at the airlock. He was ancient even by Valian standards, his crystal body bearing the deep blue color that came with centuries of life. He looked at the humans like they were insects. I cannot believe the High Council is wasting precious time with this, Vexmara said. Your crude medicine has nothing to offer Valian physiology. With respect, Chancellor, Carter replied. We'd like to see the patient's condition for ourselves. Vexmara led them through corridors that seemed to shift and change as they walked. Other Valian physicians stopped to stare at the human doctors, their expressions ranging from curiosity to outright contempt. The humans were clearly not welcome here. They reached the Emperor's chamber, a massive room with walls of pure crystal. In the center lay Emperor Zixthara, on a floating platform surrounded by medical devices that hummed with energy. The Emperor himself was magnificent even in illness. His body was like a living diamond, but dark veins ran through his crystal form like cracks in glass. The quantum plague has infected his neural matrix, Vexmara explained reluctantly. It spreads through his consciousness pathways, destroying his ability to think and feel. Within days, his mind will be completely gone. Carter approached the platform carefully. May I scan him with our equipment? Your primitive scanners will tell you nothing our technology has not already revealed, Vexmara said. Please, Carter insisted. Vexmara waved his hand dismissively. Carter activated her portable medical scanner, a device that looked crude compared to the floating Valian equipment. She studied the readings carefully while Rodriguez and Foster took their own measurements. Interesting, Rodriguez murmured. Lisa, look at these quantum resonance patterns. Carter nodded slowly. The plague isn't just disrupting neural pathways. It's actually rewriting them, folding them into increasingly complex patterns that the brain can't process. We know this already, Vexmara said impatiently. We have tried every energy treatment, every quantum manipulation technique. Nothing works. That might be the problem, Foster said quietly. You're fighting technology with technology. But this isn't a technological problem. It's biological. The Valian physicians in the room began talking among themselves in their musical language, clearly debating whether to listen to the humans or throw them out. Carter ignored them and continued studying her scanner. Chancellor Vexmara, she said finally, have you considered that the quantum plague might be similar to prion diseases? Prion diseases? Vexmara looked confused. On Earth, we have diseases caused by misfolded proteins that corrupt other proteins around them. The corruption spreads like a chain reaction. This quantum plague works the same way, but instead of proteins, it's corrupting neural quantum states. Rodriguez nodded excitedly. The other species tried to fight it with energy and technology, but that's like trying to cure cancer with a hammer. Sometimes you need a more subtle approach. And what do you propose? Vexmara asked, his tone suggesting he thought the humans were wasting his time. On Earth, we've been studying extremophile bacteria that can survive in quantum-hostile environments, Carter explained. These organisms produce compounds that can stabilize quantum states. If we can adapt these compounds for Valian biology— Impossible, Vexmara interrupted. Valian physiology is silicon-based. Your organic compounds would be toxic. Not necessarily, Foster said. We'd need to modify them. Combine them with targeted electromagnetic pulses to reset the corrupted neural pathways. It would require direct surgical intervention. The room fell silent. The idea of surgery was clearly foreign to the Valians, who relied on energy manipulation and thought-controlled medicine. Surgery? Vexmara looked horrified. You want to cut into the Emperor's body? Microsurgery, Foster corrected. Precise interventions to repair damaged neural connections while the quantum stabilizers prevent further corruption. This is barbaric, one of the Valian physicians said. It's the only option left, Morrison said firmly. Your advanced technology has failed. Our approach might seem primitive to you, but it's designed to work in chaotic, unpredictable situations. That's exactly what you're facing. Vexmara was quiet for a long moment, studying the Emperor's deteriorating condition. The dark veins in the crystal body were spreading visibly, and the monitoring equipment showed neural activity continuing to decline. Even if your theory is correct, Vexmara said finally, the procedure would be incredibly dangerous. If you fail, you could kill him instantly. If we do nothing, he'll die anyway, Carter pointed out. At least this gives him a chance. The High Council would never approve such a risk, Vexmara said. The High Council is desperate, Morrison replied. That's why they sent the distress call in the first place. Sometimes desperate times call for desperate measures. Through the crystal walls, they could see Valian ships moving in the distance. The political situation was clearly deteriorating as word of the Emperor's condition spread throughout the Empire. Time was running out, and everyone in the room knew it. Vexmara looked at the Emperor, then at the human medical team, then back at his patient. "I will present your proposal to Prime Minister Kelnara, but I warn you, if this goes wrong, the consequences will be severe for all involved." "Understood," Morrison said, "but doing nothing guarantees failure. At least we're offering hope." Prime Minister Kelnara stood in the High Council chamber surrounded by heated arguments in the musical Valian language. The debate had been going on for 3 hours, and the Emperor's condition was getting worse with every passing minute. Through the crystal walls, she could see the orbital defenses powering up as various Valian noble houses positioned their fleets for what they believed would be an inevitable succession war. Chancellor Vexmara entered the chamber with Dr. Carter and Captain Morrison behind him. The human doctors looked small and fragile among the towering crystal beings, but their eyes showed determination that impressed Kelnara despite her reservations. "Prime Minister," Vexmara said formally, "the humans have presented a treatment proposal that is both unprecedented and dangerous." "Explain," Kelnara commanded. Carter stepped forward. "Prime Minister, we believe the quantum plague can be treated using a combination of organic stabilizers derived from Earth organisms and targeted electromagnetic therapy. The procedure would require direct surgical intervention to repair damaged neural pathways." The council chamber erupted in shocked voices. The idea of cutting into living tissue was alien to Valian medicine, which relied entirely on energy manipulation and thought-controlled healing. "This is madness," declared Councillor Thexval. "You would mutilate our Emperor with primitive cutting tools?" "Councillor," Morrison replied calmly, "every advanced medical system in the galaxy has failed to help your Emperor. Our approach may seem crude, but it's specifically designed to handle situations that high technology cannot solve." "And if you fail?" Kelnara asked. "The Emperor dies," Carter said honestly, "but if we do nothing, he dies anyway. Our way gives him a fighting chance." Kelnara looked at the holographic display showing the Emperor's vital signs. The neural activity was declining rapidly, and the quantum plague was spreading to new areas of his consciousness matrix. She could see the fear in her counselor's eyes, though they tried to hide it behind their crystalline composure. "How long would this procedure take?" she asked. "Approximately 6 hours," Dr. Foster replied. "We would need to work in stages, allowing the Emperor's system to stabilize between interventions. And during this time, he would be completely vulnerable?" "Yes," Carter admitted. "But Prime Minister, he's already dying. This is his only chance." Kelnara closed her eyes and felt the weight of an entire empire on her shoulders. If she refused, the Emperor would die and civil war would tear apart everything their civilization had built. If she agreed and the humans failed, she would be responsible for his death and the political consequences would be equally devastating. "Very well," she said finally. "You have permission to attempt the procedure." The council chamber exploded in protests, but Kelnara raised her hand for silence. "The decision is made. Chancellor Vexmara, provide the humans with whatever assistance they require." Within an hour, the Emperor's medical chamber had been transformed. Human equipment sat alongside Valian devices, creating a strange mixture of technologies. Engineer Paul Stevens worked frantically with Valian technicians to adapt the human medical scanners for use with silicon-based biology. Dr. Carter reviewed the treatment protocol one final time. The organic stabilizers were ready, synthesized from compounds found in Earth's deep-sea bacteria. The electromagnetic pulse generators were calibrated for Valian neural frequencies. Everything depended on precise timing and careful coordination between human intuition and Valian technology. "Beginning first phase," Carter announced as she activated the scanning array. The quantum patterns of the plague became visible on the displays, showing the corruption spreading through the Emperor's neural matrix like dark fire. Dr. Foster moved to the surgical station, her hands steady despite the enormous pressure. She had performed microsurgery countless times on humans, but never on a being whose consciousness existed partially outside normal space and time. "Neural interface established," Foster reported. "I can see the damaged pathways. Beginning repair sequence." The delicate work required absolute concentration. Foster guided microscopic instruments through the Emperor's crystalline neural structure, while Carter monitored the quantum stabilizers and Rodriguez managed the electromagnetic pulse therapy. Every movement had to be perfect because a single mistake could destroy the Emperor's mind completely. 2 hours into the procedure, alarms began sounding throughout the medical facility. Commander Troy Williams, Morrison's security chief, received an urgent communication from the palace guards. "Captain," Williams called out, "we have a problem. Someone is trying to sabotage the power grid." Morrison looked up from the medical displays. "How? Unknown hostiles have infiltrated the lower levels. They're attempting to cut power to the medical wing." "Handle it," Morrison ordered. "We cannot stop this procedure now." Williams led a team of human security personnel through the crystal corridors of the palace. The Valian Guard Captain, Thexandra, joined them with her own troops. The mixed human-alien security force moved quickly through the complex, following the sounds of weapons fire from the lower levels. "Down here," Thexandra pointed with one of her 4 arms. "The power distribution center is 3 levels below." The group descended through corridors that became increasingly narrow and maze-like. Williams admired the tactical thinking of whoever planned this sabotage. They had chosen the most defensible position in the palace to make their stand. The firefight began when they reached the power center. Energy beams flashed through the air as the saboteurs, wearing environmental suits that hid their identity, fought desperately to complete their mission. Williams organized his team using Earth military tactics, coordinating with Thexandra to create overlapping fields of fire. "They're not trying to escape," Williams observed. "This is a suicide mission." "Which means they're fanatics or they're being paid enough to die for this," Thexandra replied grimly. Back in the medical chamber, the lights flickered as the power supply became unstable. Carter felt her heart racing as the delicate equipment threatened to shut down in the middle of the most critical phase of treatment. "Power levels dropping," Rodriguez reported. "We need backup generators online now." Stevens worked frantically at his improvised control panel. "Switching to emergency power. We have maybe 20 minutes before the batteries run out." Dr. Foster continued her microsurgery, despite the flickering lights and unstable equipment. Her hands moved with practiced precision as she guided the repair nanites through the Emperor's neural pathways. "Almost there," she whispered. "Just need a few more minutes." In the power center, Williams and his team finally overwhelmed the saboteurs, but not before significant damage had been done to the palace's electrical systems. Smoke filled the corridors and emergency lighting cast strange shadows on the crystal walls. "Power restoration in progress," Stevens reported as backup generators came online throughout the facility. Carter watched her displays as the quantum stabilizers began to take effect. The dark veins in the Emperor's crystal body started to fade as the plague spread, slowed, and reversed. "It's working," she said with barely controlled excitement. "The neural corruption is retreating." Dr. Foster completed the final stage of microsurgery, carefully sealing the repaired neural pathways to prevent reinfection. "Surgical repairs complete. Neural matrix integrity restored to 85%. Rodriguez monitored the electromagnetic pulse therapy as it reached its conclusion. Final treatment phase initiated. Quantum state stabilization in progress." The medical chamber fell silent except for the soft humming of machinery. Everyone watched the displays showing the Emperor's vital signs as the treatment reached its climax. Slowly, gradually, the chaotic quantum patterns began to organize themselves into stable configurations. "Neural activity increasing," Carter reported. "Consciousness matrix reforming. I think we did it." Emperor Zixthara's crystal body began to glow with soft inner light as his neural pathways restored themselves. For the first time in days, his vital signs showed improvement instead of decline. Emperor Zixthara's eyes opened for the first time in 5 days, and the entire medical chamber fell silent. His crystalline body pulsed with renewed energy, and the dark veins that had threatened to consume his neural matrix were completely gone. The quantum plague had been defeated by the primitive medicine that every advanced species in the galaxy had dismissed as useless. Dr. Carter stepped back from the medical platform with trembling hands. She had just accomplished something that the greatest medical minds in galactic history had declared impossible. The organic compounds derived from Earth's extremophile bacteria had stabilized the Emperor's quantum neural states while Dr. Foster's microsurgery repaired the damaged pathways. "Your Majesty," Prime Minister Kelnara approached the platform with obvious relief. "How do you feel?" The Emperor sat up slowly, his movements careful as he tested his restored consciousness. When he spoke, his voice carried a strange quality that none of the Valians had ever heard before. "I feel different," he said quietly. "During the neural interface procedure, something unexpected happened. I experienced memories and emotions that were not my own." Dr. Carter looked concerned. "Memories? That shouldn't be possible. The treatment only affected your neural quantum states." "Human memories," the Emperor continued, looking directly at Carter. "I saw images of your species' history, felt your emotions, understood your motivations in ways no Valian has ever experienced." The medical chamber erupted in shocked whispers. The idea of consciousness transfer between species was theoretical at best, considered impossible by most scientists. Yet the Emperor spoke with absolute certainty about experiencing human thoughts and feelings. "What kind of memories?" Captain Morrison asked. Emperor Zixithara closed his eyes as if reviewing internal files. "I saw humans struggling to survive on a hostile world, adapting to environments that would kill most other species. I felt the drive to help others even when it meant personal sacrifice. I understood why you came here despite our rejection of your assistance." Chancellor Vexmara looked disturbed. "Your Majesty, this is highly irregular. Perhaps the treatment has caused some form of neural confusion." "No, Chancellor," the Emperor replied firmly. "My mind has never been clearer. The brief connection with human consciousness has shown me something profound about the nature of true strength. Physical power and advanced technology are not the only measures of a civilization's worth." Prime Minister Kelnara felt the implications of the Emperor's words ripple through her thoughts. If the leader of the Valian Empire now understood and respected human nature, it would fundamentally change their relationship with Earth and potentially with the entire galaxy. News of the Emperor's recovery spread across Velos Prime within hours. The noble houses that had been preparing for civil war suddenly found themselves celebrating instead of fighting. Orbital defense platforms powered down and military fleets returned to their bases. The crisis that had threatened to tear apart the Valian Empire was over, but not everyone was pleased with the outcome. Deep in the shadows of galactic politics, the hegemony of worlds watched these developments with growing alarm. This coalition of older species had hoped to expand their influence during the chaos of a Valian succession war. Now their plans lay in ruins, destroyed by primitive human medicine. Admiral Kexthor of the Hegemony Fleet sent encrypted messages to his allies across the galaxy. The humans must not be allowed to gain more influence. Their success here will inspire other species to question our natural superiority. On Earth, news of Dr. Carter's breakthrough sent shockwaves through the scientific community. The Galactic Medical Institute immediately offered her a position as Director of Interspecies Medical Research, with resources that exceeded anything available on Earth. "Dr. Carter," the holographic message from Institute Director Velmak began, "your achievement represents the greatest medical breakthrough in Federation history. We would be honored to have you lead our research programs." Carter reviewed the offer with mixed feelings. The position would give her access to medical knowledge from dozens of species and unlimited funding for her research. But it would also mean leaving Earth and the human medical community that had shaped her career. Captain Morrison found her in the USS Mercy's medical bay, staring out at the stars through the observation port. "Thinking about the Institute's offer?" he asked. "It's tempting," Carter admitted. "The research opportunities would be incredible. But I keep thinking about what the Emperor said, about experiencing human memories and understanding our motivations." "What do you mean?" "We succeeded here because we think differently from other species. Our medicine evolved to deal with chaos and uncertainty, because Earth is an unpredictable world. If I go work with aliens who have completely different approaches to medicine, will I lose that edge?" Morrison nodded thoughtfully. "On the other hand, imagine what you could learn from other species' medical knowledge. You could bring that back to benefit humanity." Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent communication from Federation Command. Admiral Helen Stewart, Earth's highest-ranking officer in the Federation military, appeared on the display with a grave expression. "Captain Morrison, Dr. Carter, congratulations on your success at Velos Prime. However, we've received intelligence that certain Federation members are not pleased with humanity's new reputation. There may be attempts to discredit your achievement or limit human involvement in future medical missions." "What kind of attempts?" Morrison asked, Unknown at this time, but our sources suggest the hegemony of worlds is planning some form of response. They view humanity's success as a threat to the established galactic order. Dr. Carter felt a chill of concern. The hegemony controlled significant military and economic resources across multiple star systems. If they decided to target humanity, Earth's relatively small fleet and limited political influence might not provide adequate protection. Meanwhile, on Velos Prime, Emperor Zixthera was experiencing the full impact of his temporary connection to human consciousness. The memories and emotions he had absorbed during the neural interface procedure continued to influence his thoughts and decisions. He called for a private meeting with Prime Minister Kellanara in his personal chambers, a crystalline room that reflected the light of Velos Prime's 3 suns in patterns of incredible beauty. Kellanara, I want to establish new medical exchange programs with Earth, he announced. Their doctors saved my life using methods our physicians would never have considered. We must learn from them. The Prime Minister looked concerned. Your Majesty, such programs would be seen as favoritism toward a junior species. The other Federation members might view this as inappropriate. Let them, the Emperor replied. For too long we have measured civilization by technological advancement alone. The humans have shown us that wisdom and compassion are equally important. Their willingness to risk everything to save the life of someone they barely knew demonstrates a type of courage that transcends mere technology. This could have significant political implications, Kellanara warned. Indeed it could, the Emperor agreed. Perhaps it's time for those implications to be felt throughout the galaxy. I'm also considering establishing a new organization dedicated to emergency medical response across species lines, with human doctors playing a leading role. The idea was revolutionary. Throughout galactic history, medical assistance had been provided primarily within species groups or between closely allied civilizations. The concept of universal medical aid, regardless of politics or species relationships, had never been seriously considered. The Federation Council will resist such changes, Kellanara said. Then perhaps the Federation Council needs to evolve, the Emperor replied. The humans saved my life when everyone else had given up. That kind of dedication to preserving life should be the foundation of any truly civilized society. As word of the Emperor's proposed reforms spread throughout Valian government circles, political tremors began to ripple across the galaxy. Species that had dismissed humanity as primitive newcomers suddenly found themselves forced to reconsider their assumptions about galactic hierarchy and the true nature of advanced civilization. 6 months after Emperor Zixthera's recovery, the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. The Emperor's announcement of the Humanitarian Alliance sent shockwaves through every Federation world. For the first time in galactic history, a major civilization was proposing that medical assistance should be provided to any species in need, regardless of political relationships or technological status. Dr. Lisa Carter stood on the observation deck of Medical Station Alpha, the new headquarters of the Galactic Medical Institute. Through the transparent aluminum windows, she could see ships from dozens of species docking at the station's various ports. Human doctors worked alongside Valian healers, Centauri telepaths, and even a few ethereal consortium energy manipulators. The transformation had not been easy. Many Federation members initially resisted the idea that primitive human medicine could teach them anything useful. But as word spread about the Emperor's miraculous recovery, requests for human medical consultations began arriving from across the galaxy. Captain Morrison joined Carter at the observation window. He now commanded the USS Hope, a massive medical vessel that served as the flagship of the new Humanitarian Alliance fleet. His crew included doctors and specialists from 7 different species, all working together under the principles that humanity had brought to galactic medicine. Nervous about the ceremony? Morrison asked. Carter nodded. Today, Emperor Zixthera and Earth President Catherine Moore would officially inaugurate the Humanitarian Alliance with a joint address to the Galactic Assembly. The speech would establish new protocols for emergency medical response throughout Federation space. I still can't believe how much has changed, Carter said. A year ago, most species wouldn't even let us examine their patients. Now we're training mixed medical teams on techniques that combine the best knowledge from dozens of worlds. Not everyone is happy about it, Morrison warned. Intelligence reports suggest the hegemony is planning something. The hegemony of worlds had watched humanity's rise with growing alarm. Their carefully maintained system of technological superiority was being challenged by a species that solved problems through adaptability and compassion rather than advanced equipment. Admiral Kexthor had been gathering support among the more traditional Federation members for what he called a return to proper galactic order. In the depths of space, far from any inhabited system, hegemony ships gathered for a final planning session. Their target was not military but political. They intended to stage a false flag operation that would make humanity appear aggressive and dangerous, destroying Earth's reputation and ending the humanitarian alliance before it could fully establish itself. The humans must be stopped, Admiral Kexthor addressed his assembled fleet commanders. Their influence grows daily and threatens the natural order of galactic civilization. If we allow them to continue, every inferior species will begin demanding equal treatment. The plan was complex and cruel. Hegemony agents would attack a peaceful Federation colony using modified human weapons, making it appear that Earth was expanding aggressively into alien territory. The evidence would be overwhelming, and the political damage irreversible. But the conspirators had not counted on the intelligence network that Commander Troy Williams had been building. Working with security officers from the Humanitarian Alliance, Williams had been tracking suspicious hegemony activities for months. Captain, Williams contacted Morrison through encrypted channels. "We have a problem. The hegemony is planning to attack the Kalari colony in the Outer Rim. They want to make it look like humans did it." Morrison felt his blood run cold. The Kalari were a peaceful species of artists and philosophers who had recently requested human medical assistance for a genetic disorder affecting their children. If they were attacked by weapons that appeared to be human-made, the political consequences would destroy everything they had worked to achieve. "How long do we have?" Morrison asked. "The attack is scheduled for tomorrow during the Alliance ceremony. They want maximum political impact." Morrison made a quick decision. "Alert the Alliance fleet. We're moving to intercept." The next day, as Emperor Zixithera and President Moore prepared to address the Galactic Assembly, ships from the Humanitarian Alliance moved through hyperspace toward the Outer Rim. The fleet included vessels from multiple species, all united in their commitment to protecting innocent lives. The hegemony attack force arrived at the Kalari system expecting an easy target. Instead, they found themselves facing a mixed fleet of human, Valian, and other Alliance ships. Commander Williams had positioned his forces perfectly, catching the conspirators before they could complete their false flag operation. "Hegemony vessels, this is Captain Morrison of the Humanitarian Alliance. You are ordered to stand down and explain your presence in Kalari space." Admiral Kexthor realized his plan had been discovered but decided to fight rather than surrender. "All ships engage the Alliance fleet. We cannot allow this evidence to reach the Assembly." The battle was brief but decisive. The Alliance ships fought with coordination that surprised the hegemony forces. Human tactical flexibility combined with Valian energy weapons and other alien technologies created a fighting force unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Within hours, the hegemony fleet was defeated, and Admiral Kexthor was in custody. The evidence of the planned false flag operation was overwhelming, including detailed plans and communications that proved the conspiracy reached to the highest levels of several Federation governments. On Medical Station Alpha, the ceremony proceeded as planned. Emperor Zixithara stood before the assembled representatives of the galaxy, his crystalline form radiating calm authority. Beside him, President Moore represented humanity with quiet dignity. "Fellow beings of the galaxy," the Emperor began, "6 months ago I was dying from a condition that our most advanced medical technology could not treat. I was saved by doctors from a species that many of you consider primitive and inferior. But I learned something during my treatment that changed my understanding of true civilization." The assembly listened in respectful silence as the Emperor described his temporary connection to human consciousness and what it had taught him about courage, compassion, and the willingness to help others regardless of personal cost. "Today we establish the Humanitarian Alliance not as a challenge to the Federation, but as its highest expression. We declare that medical assistance will be provided to any species in need, that knowledge will be shared freely, and that the value of life transcends political boundaries or technological achievement." President Moore stepped forward to speak. The Alliance represents humanity's commitment to the principle that guided our doctors to Velos Prime. When someone needs help, you help them. It doesn't matter if they like you or think you're good enough. You do what's right. The vote to approve the Alliance was overwhelming. Even species that had initially opposed the idea found themselves supporting the principles of universal medical assistance. The evidence of the hegemony's conspiracy had shown them the ugly reality of the old system, based purely on technological superiority. Dr. Carter returned to her work with renewed purpose. The Galactic Medical Institute became a center of learning where the best medical knowledge from dozens of species was combined and shared. Human doctors taught alien physicians about adaptability and improvisation, while learning advanced techniques that they brought back to benefit Earth. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. True civilization was not measured by the sophistication of technology or the age of culture. It was measured by the willingness to answer the call when life was at risk, to offer help without expecting reward, and to treat every living being with the dignity they deserved. Humanity had entered galactic civilization as the newest and least respected member species. Through courage, compassion, and the determination to do what was right regardless of the personal cost, they had become the moral leaders of the galaxy. The Humanitarian Alliance grew to include most Federation species, united under principles that humanity had brought to the stars. Emperor Zix Thara often reflected on the temporary connection he had experienced with human consciousness during his treatment. The memories of struggle and adaptation, the drive to help others, and the refusal to give up in the face of impossible odds had become permanent parts of his worldview. He ruled the Valian Empire with wisdom gained from understanding that strength came not from power over others, but from the willingness to serve others in their time of need.